Good morning, everybody. It is the Rutherford Sports Podcast, and on this morning we are going to be talking about whether or not we should even have college football this fall. Now, we have to take this question from a very pragmatic, practical point of view. Optimistically, I think every college football fan across this country would love to have college football, as it always is almost, except for this year, starting up next weekend. Or should say this weekend. Or is it? It's the following weekend because it's Labor Day weekend. Okay. So, what we're seeing across campuses is more and more cases of COVID-19 cropping up. And more colleges are closing down and sending their students home to learn online. And it's really having an impact. And now all of a sudden you've got colleges who are debating whether or not to even have games. Conferences now, I think, are reopening debates that they thought they had already settled. At this time, the only two of the Big Five, Power Five major conferences that have decided to push football to next spring are the Big Ten and the Pac-10. As of right now, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 are still on for playing college football this fall. And I think in the group of five conferences, the smaller ones, it's only, sorry. It's only the Big Sky, which is actually, I think, FCS, and the MAC right now. The MAC is the only one of the big group of five that I know of that's, I may be wrong about that, but I think the next week or two is going to be massive to determining whether or not we have college football this fall. I'd love to say it's perfectly fine to have college football. I'd love to sit here and tell you that there's no problem, it's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay, and all of this. But these are not professional athletes. Regardless of what you may think, they're not making a ton of money. They're not making any money theoretically, although there are probably some that, as we all know, probably have some kind of money coming in under the table. But that's a discussion for another time. The truth of the matter is that these players are basically playing as if you had a student working as what do they call it? Work-study job. They're getting paid for their scholarship. They're getting paid for the room and board. That's it. No extra funds or anything like that. I could sit here and tell you how wrong that is, in the sense that these are players who want to make it to the next level, or at least want to get a scholarship to where they can better the lives of themselves and their families. But for some reason, I guess it's because of the fact that I worry that these players are being exploited yet again. And to me, it's wrong, morally wrong. I don't care how much money they bring into a college. I don't care how, and all this. This is life or death we're talking about here. And you can say, well, the recovery rate is 97%, 98%, 99%, whatever. There's still that 1 to 3% that don't make it. B, of that 97 to 99%, there are plenty of people who suffer lifelong complications because of this. And C, I don't want anybody to have to go through this, even if it's a mild case. And there are people who say, well, it's just like the flu. this has already killed far more people in a very short period of time than the flu ever does in its worst season in modern history. Okay? So to compare this is ridiculous. And shouldn't we be trying to defeat this thing? Why? And to me, you've got people who just want to go back to normal, and they don't care about how many people die. They don't. It's ridiculous. I want to go back to normal. I'd love to go back to normal. I'd love to go back to being able to have college football back again. I'd love that. I truly would. It's not possible anymore. Not this year. Maybe not even next year. There's a lot of uncertainty going on. And the college football world, let me be perfectly frank here. College football is the least of my concerns right now. And it really should be the least of concerns for most of you. Yeah, I'd love to have college football this fall. I'd love to have high school football. I'd love to have NFL football. But high school football in this state's been pushed back to February. College football in most areas is still up in the air. I think, personally, within the next week or two, you're going to have all the games moved to spring. It just does not make any sense to push this right now. It doesn't. I'd love to sit here and tell you that everything is peachy keen, it's going to get better. No. And I can't trust this administration because they're running for re-election. They're trying to present that this is a past tense. We've gotten over the hurdle. No, we haven't. We're the only industrialized country that can say that. And even in other industrialized countries, they're starting to see spikes again. As much as I wish this would go away, and we all do. We all want it to go away. We want this to be gone so that we can get back to our lives and back to doing what we like to do for ourselves. But we can't, ladies and gentlemen. Not right now. Not for the foreseeable future. And asking these young men, and not just the players, the managers, the team, the people around the team, the coaches, the officials on the field, broadcasters, technicians, whatever. This is something that I'm really bothered by because we are asking people who aren't going to make a lot of money to put themselves in harm's way. Because, let's face it, this is... And you can say, well, it's not, you're overblowing it. No, I'm not. There are over 170,000 people dead of this. There's over, 6 million people who've been infected by this. 6 million people out of 320 million. That's a hell of a lot of folks. You could do the math, folks, okay? 3 out of every 16 people have gotten this. 3 out of every 16 people have come down with this. That's a lot. Or maybe 160, something like that. I can't remember, but anyhow, you get the number. I'm not the greatest at math. I'll be the first to admit that, but I had to think for a second there. But anyway, I mean, to me, you look at the numbers, and it's like we should have done better than it, but we're not. And we got to accept the way things are right now. We can do better, obviously, but we can't just ignore this, ladies and gentlemen. And going full bore into a college football season, when you know these students are going to be wanting to go out and party, you know they're going to be wanting to go out and hang out with their friends, you know they're going to be wanting to go out to class and such, or just to do something besides just hanging around their teammates. We know professional players in the bubbles are having issues with this. Baseball's having a ton of issues with this, and there's still no certainty whether or not we'll even finish the season or not. And these are professional athletes we're talking about here. Now you've got college athletes we're talking about who aren't getting paid millions of dollars, who don't have the benefit of a union, and who right now are wondering whether or not they're going to even play. You've got the elite ones who are wondering should they play, because if they push the season back to the spring, that goes right into the NFL draft next year. So why would they risk their draft status to play spring football? And you're saying, well, they could be required to do that for their scholarship. Well, then you got your lawsuit. Because a player can be dropped by the coach. A player could theoretically decide they want to leave college. There's a lot going on here, folks. And there's no guarantee there'll even be an NFL season this year. Yeah, football is 2 weeks away, but there's no guarantee we'll even see that. There could be a dramatic change between now and the beginning of the season next year. The season upcoming, I should say. I worry that you're going to have Republican governors and maybe even some Democratic governors who are running for office who go, well, let's take a risk and see what happens. That's what I worry about. We have to be vigilant against this. We haven't been. We were for a time early in the spring, but then as we got closer to summer and people started talking about, well, we're going to have to miss beach trips and all of this, people started slacking off. Okay? And we missed graduations, and some people had graduations anyway, and some people got infected. Here is the thing. Right now, is college football worth these kids' lives? I'm not talking about their lives as in dying. I'm talking about their lives as potentially getting not just a career-ending illness, but a illness to where they can't even work to support themselves. That's what scares me. How many of these kids are going to be sacrificed to have college football? And they are kids. They're 18 to 21 years old, 22 years old. And we're asking them to sacrifice themselves so that we can have some sense of normalcy in a time that there's no way in hell there's any normalcy. My job right now, once this goes away, it goes away, and I got to find another job. You want to know something? I'd like to find another job, because even though my job pays well and it's relatively easy, it reminds me constantly of the fact that I lost a job that I really was invested in because of COVID-19. And I'd love to go back to the place I was working. I'll be that honest about it. I liked it. It wasn't perfect. Yeah, there any place you work, there's always going to be issues, but I liked it. I felt like I was building something there. I'm like anybody else. I liked where I was working at because I felt like that I was making progress in that position. I was going up the ladder, so to speak, slowly but surely. I had goals in the company and all of this, and now I'm thinking to these players, They got goals in life. And they're being asked to go out there, play football, and hope for the best, expect the worst. That's not how life works, ladies and gentlemen. It shouldn't be how life works. They're not going into battle, not literally. And I hate when we have people talk about football players going into battle. They're not really going into battle. It's not a war. It's a game. A game that can wait until spring. A game that should not be the end-all, be-all of these universities. Yes, I know football is a huge revenue driver for other non-revenue sports. And it's going to suck that you're going to have more sports cut because of this. Those can be revived. Yes, there are going to be young people who are going to miss out because of this. That's life. They can find a way if they are willing to make the sacrifices and make the changes in their life to get to where they want to go. It sucks. I want this to go away more than anybody. I've not known anybody personally who's died of it. I've known of people who've died of it from friends of friends. I had a co-worker's mother who died of it recently. A former co-worker's mother who died of it recently. But it sucks that we have to deal with it. And if we don't deal with this now, we're going to be dealing with this time next year. Where the rest of the world has moved on, we're still suffering. It sucks. It really does. I want college football, but not at the expense of other people's lives or their well-being. It should be very obvious that we are facing very difficult times right now in America. We're going through the biggest challenge we're facing since World War II. Bigger than Vietnam, bigger than Watergate, bigger than anything else, bigger than after 9/11 and all of this. Because this is something that has killed a lot of people, will probably kill a lot more. And what I fear is that as we get closer to the colder weather, people are more apt to stay inside. They'll get more and more frustrated, and the next thing you know, we've got this thing ramping up again. Flu season's coming. Common cold season's coming. For those of you who don't understand, let me make it perfectly frank to you. This is going to be the biggest challenge we face this year and in the next year. It's not going to go away after Election Day like some people think it will. This is not some plot by either political party to try and swing the election their way. Because why would you unleash a worldwide pandemic just to swing an election? That doesn't make any sense when it's killing your own people. It's amazing to me that we're even having this discussion. I think college football should be postponed until the spring. I don't like it, but I'd rather have to err on the side of caution than to hear reports of players getting infected and dying of this. And going back and not saying, it's ridiculous. We're going through this. It really is. It is. The world is as we find it, not as we want it, as I've heard many times in my life. This is the way the world is right now, ladies and gentlemen. We can't run away from it. We can't hide from it. We have to be willing to deal with it as it is. And that means sacrifice. That means that some things that we want to go to or see or experience aren't going to be there this year. Maybe we'll learn how to appreciate them more as time goes on. Be thankful that you're alive right now. There are 170,000 people who are not. There are probably going to be far more who are not. It could be a lot worse. And in another podcast I'm probably going to do here in a little bit, I'm going to tell you my biggest fear out of all of this. These are very sobering times. We're finding out what really is necessary and what really is not necessary. And if you really want to know the God's honest truth, college football, as much as we love it, as much as we look forward to it each and every fall, is not necessary for the survival of the nation and for the survival of our society. We can go without. It will be hard. There'll be plenty of hardships. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, this is entertainment. And we can go without for a while until we're better. Thank you, and we'll talk to you again soon.